Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fabrice POTHIER. I'm the co-founder and senior advisor of the Transatlantic Commission on Election Integrity, part of the Alliance of Democracies Foundation. And actually, the work I've been doing on the Transatlantic Commission is quite relevant to this panel, since often foreign interference and disinformation are very much about foreign groups or actors trying to actually radicalize or to, I would say, box in a corner minority groups and voices. And we have seen that throughout elections, referenda. So I think today's topic is particularly relevant. And we have a great, very rich panel to discuss what does pluralism mean today, what sort of fight is it, because essentially it's at the heart of, I would say, a tension in our democratic project. On one hand, we have the rule of the majority, which is what elections are about, where the majority wins the day and wins the vote and elects someone in power. But on the other hand, we also have in our democratic project the need for plurality, for all voices, all sensibilities to be represented in the public space. And we can see today in some countries that allegedly call themselves democratic, this tension sometimes coming to a breaking point where some leaders feel because they have been elected by a majority, therefore they can neglect the minorities and they can put them again in a corner. So I think this is a very relevant fight, a very relevant topic. And for that, again, we have three great speakers. Unfortunately, I don't have with me the names, the particular name of the speakers. So I wonder if someone could bring that to me because I left my phone behind. But I will start with their first names. So on my right, I have Meredith from Canada, who is associated with the Aga Khan Foundation, if I'm correct.
Global Center for Pluralism.
Exactly. Who is going to tell us about their work in Canada, but also in general. Further on my right, I have SôNIA, who comes from Brazil, who represents an indigenous association in Brazil, and therefore is very much at the front line of this question about plurality in modern democracies. And on my left, I have
Ahmad QISAY.
Ahmad QISAY, who is going to tell us about his experience also in his own country, about what does the fight for pluralism, for making your voice heard and matter in this kind of majoritarian rule that are modern democracies. So I would like to start first by asking each speaker to share their experience. What does it mean from their point of view, pluralism? How do they take that fight forward? Starting with SôNIA, and then I will turn to Meredith, and then QISAI, and then hopefully we have a good interactive discussion where we can dive in on some of the more specific issues. SôNIA, we have a Portuguese translation. I think it's number 4 on your headset, because SôNIA will speak in Portuguese. Thank you.
Olá, boa tarde. Eu quero agradecer a oportunidade de estar aqui junto com vocês nessa diversidade de povos, né, que para nós já é aqui um retrato de um pluralismo, né, no mundo. E falar de pluralismo, acho que é importante a gente começar a, primeiro, falar... Cadê o... desculpa.
Please.
Tá ok, já isso daí. 3. Tá. Olá, boa tarde. Eu quero agradecer pela oportunidade de estar aqui, né, compondo com essa diversidade de povos, que para nós já é uma representação dessa pluralidade no mundo, né? E acho que falar de pluralidade e falar de minorias, é preciso primeiro a gente começar a quebrar esse conceito que já foi, né, que já foi incorporado no mundo inteiro, de tratar povos indígenas, negros e negras, mulheres, né, povos, comunidades tradicionais como minoria, porque nós somos muitos, né? Nós somos muito potentes. E falar de minoria às vezes é uma forma até de fragilizar ainda mais, né, o que nós somos, a potência que nós somos. Nós indígenas, nós somos 5% da população mundial. E esses 5% consegue proteger 82% da biodiversidade que existe no mundo. No Brasil, nós somos 305 povos distintos, né, dos 5.000 povos que existiam lá desde a chegada europeia no Brasil. Né? Eram mais de 5.000 línguas. Né? Hoje nós falamos ainda, conseguimos manter viva 274 línguas diferentes faladas no Brasil. E ainda temos, né, grupos de pessoas, né, originárias, de indígenas que vivem em situação de isolamento voluntário. São 114 grupos já comprovados que vivem, né, na floresta sem nenhum contato com a sociedade. Então, nós temos no Brasil uma diversidade de povos, de culturas e de territórios. Isso é uma pluralidade. Né? Nós, indígenas, somos povos originários, os primeiros habitantes, né? E logo depois chega os negros, vindo da África, que são, né, escravizados pelo colonialismo, né, e por essa invasão, essa sede de explorar. Então, essas práticas de violência que tentou acabar com esse pluralismo, elas permanecem vivas até hoje. E esse pluralismo está ameaçado pelas próprias práticas, né, governamentais. Né? O sistema capitalista, né, esse sistema econômico tem uma forte tentativa de acabar com essa diversidade de cultura e de povos. E essa ameaça, né, que cai sobre nós hoje tem como base a exploração dos territórios, que coloca a terra, né, hoje como esse principal objeto de disputa pelo poder político e econômico. Então, nós indígenas no Brasil, né, estamos fazendo um enfrentamento gigante com o governo federal, né, que hoje nos olha como inimigos. Né? E nós fazemos essa luta articulando movimentos, né, indígenas, negros, povos e comunidades extrativistas, mulheres, população LGBT, que é exatamente o que enriquece essa diversidade. Né? Então, o Brasil precisava, né, era importante que o Brasil utilizasse essa diversidade de povos e culturas como uma estratégia, né, para potencializar ainda mais essa riqueza. Enquanto, né, se faz o contrário, os governos tentam nos invisibilizar, o governo tenta, né, tirar de nós o que nós temos de mais precioso, que é o nosso direito ao território. O território para nós é sagrado. Só com ele garantido é que a gente consegue exercer a cidadania plena. Somos povos que vivemos na terra e vivemos da terra. Então, é muito importante hoje que os direitos da terra sejam garantidos, sejam respeitados para poder garantir a vida no planeta. Então, nós indígenas não queremos que ninguém nos olhe como coitadinho, né, como inferior, como minoria. Nós queremos que o mundo nos reconheça pela potência que somos para garantir a vida no planeta.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Before I turn to Meredith, I would like, you raise a very important point here about the link between your population and protecting biodiversity in Brazil, and not just for Brazil, but for the whole world. And as you know, this is a very relevant fight here also, as my president has had some kind of difficult words with your president about, you know, the fact that the world cares about the future of the Amazon forest. But my point here is, by being the keeper of biodiversity, which I think is a very important role, are you not making that issue an issue that people will regard as an issue of a minority, whilst what you want is that all the Brazilian people are the keepers of biodiversity, not just indigenous people. So how you reconcile, how you making your fight mainstream and not just the fight of a group?
Sim, com certeza que é importante que haja o engajamento de todas as pessoas para a gente poder garantir ainda uma quantidade maior da preservação dessa biodiversidade. O que difere nós indígenas dos demais da população é que muitas pessoas que nunca viveram na terra, que moram na cidade, se desconectaram. Não conseguem entender essa relação de respeito, esse usufruto de forma sustentável. Há uma ganância muito grande hoje, principalmente para atender a demanda do capitalismo, e as pessoas estão muito preocupadas com as formas de consumo. Então, nós indígenas estamos ali. Para nós não existe vida se não tem a terra. Não existe povos se não tem o nosso território sagrado. Nós estamos ali protegendo o que ainda existe de água doce, de água limpa no planeta. O Brasil tem os 2 maiores aquíferos de águas. Um que está na Amazônia e outro que está na região sul e sudeste do país. E esses aquíferos estão exatamente onde estão os territórios indígenas. Se não mantém, se não garante esse direito ao território, esses aquíferos eles estão ameaçados, porque os territórios indígenas demarcados impedem a expansão agrícola, funciona como barreira ao desmatamento e consegue ainda conter a floresta em pé, que absorve o carbono que vai para a atmosfera, que hoje todo mundo luta e procura formas tecnológicas inovadoras para sequestrar esse carbono. Enquanto que nós fazemos isso com o nosso modo de vida próprio. Então, se há, de fato, um engajamento, uma compreensão de que essa natureza grita por socorro, que essa natureza está sendo toda acabada e, pior, está sendo destruída de forma legalizada pelos próprios governos. Então, é importante que se garanta os territórios indígenas demarcados, porque ali é garantia de floresta em pé, de biodiversidade protegida. Porque muitos olham nossas áreas hoje como áreas improdutivas, como acontece hoje no Brasil, uma tentativa de legalizar a exploração de minérios, para ouros, metais, ferro, trazer inclusive aqui para a Europa, e eles querem acelerar esse processo porque eles falam que essas terras ficam muito tempo improdutivas, porque a legislação atual é muito demorada. Então, o que eles olham de área verde são áreas improdutivas, enquanto nós olhamos essas paisagens nativas como vida, vida para todo mundo. É o que garante o ar que todo mundo respira, é o que garante a água que todo mundo bebe. Então, é importante essa reconexão. Compreender que é a Mãe Terra que está ali gritando por esse engajamento mundial.
Thank you very much. Let me now turn to Meredith. I understand that your center is connected with the Aga Khan Foundation, and I was reading some statements by the Aga Khan himself, where he said that plurality is, not just one condition for the knowledge society, but it's the key to its very existence. So he feels very strongly about what it means, and I think it would be interesting if you can bring that vision of him into your work in Canada and elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a center whose entire raison d'etre is the issue of pluralism, and we were founded by His Highness the Aga Khan and the Government of Canada based on the vision you reference. But we're thrilled that this panel is taking place at the forum, because I think our view is that this is the social issue of our society today. And as we talk about the climate crisis and biodiversity as the existential threat to the globe, to the Earth, I really believe that pluralism is the existential question that's facing us as the human society, the inhabitants of the Earth. And I believe they're really obviously closely connected, as you've mentioned. When you sort of ask what are the challenges at the moment, I think as we live in a time of such global scarcity and anxiety, there has been a tendency to contract. Societies, communities contract to protect a space that they feel is shrinking, that there is a fear that there isn't enough, so we have to protect what we have. And I think His Highness's vision, and really the vision of our center, is that diversity is the only way that societies will thrive and be successful in the future. We need to guard against this instinct to contract and instead reach out. Cooperation, social cooperation across different communities, with different perspectives around the table, is the only way that societies will succeed in the incredibly difficult challenges that we're facing, from the climate crisis to other issues around the globe. The only way to deal with those things is through cooperation, but we have to deal with difference in that. I think the challenge that we face right now is that there is a real fear. And you mentioned in some of the preparatory documents this question of how do you engage the majority, and you were asking about how you engage the majority in Brazil. And I think this is one of the really key pieces on pluralism. I note that the title for today is In Defense of Pluralism, and I'd personally like to see pluralism be almost on the offense, that we're making a case not just to those of us who are here at the forum, those of us who believe in multilateralism, to believe in cooperation, but to those who aren't yet convinced, and to bring it down to a very human, basic level, and not keep it at the point of government policies and so forth. That in our everyday lives, there are choices that we can make to include. There are choices that can be made in terms of how you engage others to feel like they belong in your society, and that can happen in your schools, that can happen in your cities, and that can happen nationwide. And we all need to look very consciously at those choices. One of the things that we're very proud of at the center that we're able to do is we sponsor a Global Pluralism Award, where we bring pluralism champions from around the world to talk very concretely about the things that they're doing every day, whether or not it's helping to educate young people in the different different countries in the Balkans about the very different perspectives on the very troubled past that the former Yugoslavia has had, and helping students there see the perspectives from different sides and not only from potentially the dominant narrative of their own country. So teaching young people to have a pluralistic mindset from the outset gives us the next generation that may be able to take this forward in a way that we can't. But I have to say, I was reminded by a young person the other day that it's fine to educate young people, but actually it's the older people that need to be educated right now. And we need to really find spaces where we can engage on a very human level about how pluralism works for everyone. And the majority doesn't have to give something up for minorities to be part of a society. And I also very much take your point as a woman that we're not the minority, that it's the difference that we're talking about. And we're not just talking about integrating one minority into something else, but it's how you live together with all of the wonderful complexities that is the human society.
Can I push you on a question that is especially relevant in our Western democracies, but I think also applies to Brazil? Can't pluralism be also weaponized by some groups to say, oh, we are all entitled to our voice and to make our voice matter, therefore my vision, my ideas should be heard? And what we see in some cases, we call it populism, where you have an angry group of voters, often because of their economic situation, that actually become the kind of central ground of modern day politics. And I think we see that in the US, but we see that throughout Europe. So, and in the US itself, you have this debate about Facebook, for example, which is regarded by some right-wing politicians are actually too strict against more extreme right-wing voices versus more radical left-wing voices, which Facebook will be more lenient. So that's an internal American debate, but I think there's a question about whether pluralism is well-intentioned but sometimes used by some to justify ideas which are hateful, which are divisive, which are actually toxic for our common society.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think one of the things that we all discuss when we talk about pluralism is the limits of tolerance. That there is a space where if somebody is determining that they want to inflict harm on another group in society, there are limits to what you tolerate in that space. But I mean, the way I see pluralism and where I feel that it may be doesn't reflect, for example, the populist minority, the sort of tyranny of the minority that you might see in a populist rise, such as in the United States, is that at its heart, pluralism is a positive response to diversity, which means we don't just say minority rules. We say we have to engage with everyone that doesn't agree with us as well. And I think one of the things that those of us have to do who are, broadly speaking, would identify as being on the progressive left is engage on the right and not say those groups are simply beyond the pale and we can't talk to them. We have to engage because we have to find ways of reaching out and demonstrating that pluralism is something that can absolutely work for everyone. And so I think some of the freedom of speech discussions, for example, at Facebook, I think one of the disappointments with those is that they haven't been nuanced enough in understanding some of these spaces. But for me, pluralism is really about engaging with all of these forms of diversity while not extending the limits of tolerance to hateful and violent speech, certainly.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to you. What is your perspective? What's your fight on pluralism in your country and through your association?
Thank you. Thank you. For me, it's an honor to be in this panel. My organization is called Kemitraan bagi Pembaruan Tata Pemerintahan, or Partnership for Governance Reform. It focuses on building a better society or through democratic perspective. That's how we work. And the reach that we are doing is also in the issues of pluralism, issues of inclusivity. Just like today, and since yesterday we were presenting the works that one of the works that we are doing, focusing on inclusivity of those who've been deprived of their rights. Just because they have different religion, just because their religion is not accommodated within the national policies. This is what we'll be doing. But talking about pluralism and talking about the stories that have been shared by our colleague SôNIA, myself as Indonesian, I would say I'm lucky enough to be Indonesian because we are diverse. She's mentioning hundreds of ethnicity, hundreds of languages. Yes, we do all those things. We also have thousands of islands with all the diverse landscape, beautiful as well as bad one or exploited or not. But with all of these things, should return back to the pledge that the youth did in 1928. We call it a Youth Pledge in 1928, where they agree on 3 principles, 3 points. First one is they agree that one nation, that is Indonesia, one nation, one state that is Indonesia, and respect to the national language called Bahasa Indonesia. So it reflects on the diversities of Indonesia, but there's an agreement that there is one unity that's been built. Building on that one, prior to our independence, then in 1945, we agreed that we have the Pancasila, the 5 principles of Indonesian state, where we agree on principle of belief in God, belief in humanities, as well as belief in unity. Apart from that, we also respect the diversities where an agreement should be done through dialogue or discussion. It's very much the foundation of what we are. And there's one thing that we also agree that we are stated in our national emblem called Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. We are diverse yet united. That's why I said I'm myself, I'm happy to be Indonesian because I stayed in India for about 10 years. Then it is also diverse communities, but they have, they don't have such kind of agreement as we had in Indonesia. And this has been a very, very important foundation. I know that throughout the development of Indonesia, there are challenges. It emerged that we agree that there is no majority or the minority. We are diverse, that's the agreement. But along the way, there is always discrimination, just like I said earlier. Our work in these different parts of Indonesia, covering about 14,000 of indigenous communities, is just a tiny fraction of almost 6 million of Indonesian communities, religious communities who've been deprived of those rights. We propose for the fact that regard of their different religion, which the government should also embrace them as part of the citizens of the states. But the fact there is a regulation, a law that prevents them to be included in that one. It means like because of their religion, it's not one of the 6 official religion, then they're deprived of the rights to get identification. Then they deprive of their rights to access basic services such as on education as well as on health. So with the change, I mean, like we propose that we combat that one. I mean, like we fight for the change of that one through the legal process, where finally the Constitutional Court decided that this law is against the principle of the Constitution. Then they abrogated that one. Then now this kind of communities already received the ID cards, then they access these services. I think this is very important steps for us to move forward for Indonesia. I know it's just a fraction of what we are facing. I think Meredith knows more on this issue, but then this is the take that we are doing. For us, it is unity in diversity. I mean, like it is a foundation of Indonesia, and we move forward with that one. You know, with all those issues of climate change, with the issues of deforestation and everything, because we believe that those people are also part of the communities who respect and who also put the principles of harmony between state and between human being and nature should be equal. And one thing that I think is very important, apart from important to be noted here, is that an issue of or the challenge of maintaining pluralism is mostly occurred, and we reflect to whatever Indonesia is, the way the majoritarian groups, majoritarian groups are so aggressive in imposing themselves or imposing their perspective. At the same time, there is also an active or so-called expression of the expressionist of those small communities, that they should be recognized without negotiating further in the way that they should in a common ground. This is what happens. So this is a real challenge when we talk about maintaining the balance. And now, apart from education, I think getting them engaged and shown with the facts that they are diverse, they are not homogeneous. I think this is also a step for us to get along together. Thank you.
Before I turn to the audience for questions, could you explain us why this paradox? You describe Indonesia as, by essence, diversity, geographic, linguistic, religious, ethnic, and yet you also describe the fact that this diversity does not necessarily translate in pluralism, in all the voices, all the different identities being represented in the public space. Why? What's the historical, what's the political reasons why you have to do this fight in Indonesia?
There's a transition, you know. There's always, you know, when we talk about culture, there's also a shift of pendulum from one side to others. So in the very beginning, we agree that okay, the way the solution is for us to come to one unified or one format that agreed together. I know this process is long and lengthy, and sometimes it's difficult or could be something which cannot be reached. But then this agreement came way when our founding fathers agreed that this is the way to maintain Indonesia's unity. But then along the way, when democratization was occurring in Indonesia from 1998, there is the majority rules things. It's totally different from the principle that we used to have, where dialogue is the essence of the way we are solving the issues. But then through democracy, one man, one vote, one value, then it's all done. I mean, everything is being decided who is having the majority.
So it's the tension I described when I opened this panel between the majority rule, but also the need for diversity and pluralistic views. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Can I open the floor for questions? I think we have a microphone rolling. I will take one question and then we'll turn to the speakers. I have the gentleman there with his hand, if someone could bring. And I would like to invite someone who could speak about my own country, France. I will, because as you know, pluralism is also a very important issue of debate, which is connected to laïcité, which is also connected to the very origin of the French Republican revolutionary model. So I would be very interested to hear someone who can share some of his or her perspective on this issue. The gentleman there, yes. Please, could you introduce yourself and keep your question short and sharp? Thank you.
Of course, thank you. My name is Emiliano. I am Bolivian. I am part of Catalyst Rethinking the Americas. And I have a question for SôNIA, GUAJAJARA. Talking about plurality, we should, for me, it's been really important to think across borders. And I wanted to ask you, the diversity of indigenous populations that are across the Amazon in different countries, which are the opportunities that you think, or the challenges that you think must be overcome to create transnational solidarity between indigenous groups that are separated by international borders?
Thank you, very interesting. SôNIA, and I have the gentleman over there for the next question with his hand. Yes, SôNIA?
Bom, importante, acho que lembrar que essas fronteiras foram criadas pelo sistema, né, pelo sistema político, pelo sistema econômico, que divide os povos, né? Para nós indígenas, né, a barreira, e às vezes essa distância é apenas pela língua, né, pela linguagem, pelos quilômetros, mas que a nossa cultura nos une. E qualquer indígena que venha de qualquer um outro país, né, que chega onde a gente está, a gente acolhe, inclusive como parente, que é a forma de tratamento que a gente dá. E o que precisa é que os governos, que os sistemas possam acolher essas pessoas, porque as políticas dos países acabam, né, proibindo entradas, acaba, né, colocando limites, colocando condições, mas para nós, né, na afetividade e no sentimento de acolher, o que prevalece é esse espírito da coletividade, né, e desse reconhecimento enquanto povos que têm uma raiz, né, que tem uma raiz única.
Bon.
Thank you. And if the other speakers want to add something, please do let me know. Gentleman?
Je vous remercie. Je suis Monsieur André Bité. Je suis président de Action pour la paix et le développement. C'est une association qui a été créée à Creil, en France, dans l'Oise, justement dans l'objectif de faire la promotion de la tolérance, la solidarité entre les peuples. Parce que nous nous sommes rendus compte que nous vivons dans un environnement où il y a trop de communautarisme. La France a la chance d'avoir toute cette diversité. La France a la chance d'avoir toutes ces différences. Mais chez nous, le maître mot, c'est nos différences, une force. C'est bien une force que les gens se mettent ensemble parce que nous sommes condamnés à vivre ensemble. Le monde est devenu un village. Nous sortons de partout, mais nous sommes obligés de construire ensemble. Et les communautarismes sont un danger pour la cohésion. Et Creil, la ville de Creil, que je vais prendre pour exemple, héberge beaucoup de communautés. Beaucoup de communautés, et ça fait que les gens vivent ensemble, en communauté, ça crée des tensions. Parce que nous nous sommes rendus compte que moins on se connaît, moins on se méfie, plus on se méfie, je voudrais dire, et ça peut créer des tensions à tout moment. Alors nous faisons la promotion des échanges entre les peuples, des échanges entre les religions. Du moins, nous faisons la promotion du combat contre les égoïsmes. Et je pense que la diversité, nous sommes obligés de vivre avec. Elle s'est imposée à nous. Nous devons tout faire, chacun d'entre nous, dans son coin, nous devons tout faire pour faire la promotion du vivre ensemble. Et c'est ça qui motive nos actions au niveau de Creil, où nous voulons donner la chance à ce que les gens se connaissent, qu'ils se parlent, et plus les gens se parlent, moins il y aura des conflits. Je vous remercie.
C'était pas vraiment une question, c'était plus
C'était une contribution.
présentation, mais une contribution très intéressante et qui répond en partie à mon petit défi d'avoir une perspective française.
Oui.
Mais là-dessus, si je peux me permettre maintenant de retourner la question,
Oui.
puisque l'argument souvent en France de certains critiques du modèle français républicain, on est tous égaux et tous les mêmes vis-à-vis de la République, et de dire que ça ne permet pas aux sensibilités des différentes communautés de s'exprimer et de vivre dans l'espace de la République. Et souvent, on invoque le modèle opposé, qui est le modèle britannique, qui est beaucoup plus communautaire, où chaque communauté peut vivre selon son choix, ses rites, tout en étant, bien entendu, un sujet de la couronne britannique. Donc, et là, il y a vraiment un débat à savoir quel est le modèle le plus efficient, le plus durable aussi. Et il y a un débat en France sur est-ce qu'on devrait être plus communautaire, reconnaître le droit de certains groupes, de certaines minorités. Donc je vous mets aussi cette question.
Oui, ben, je pense que chaque monde a son modèle. La France a un modèle qui reste peut-être à parfaire, mais qui est un modèle qui est un exemple. Parce que nous vivons dans une république où chacun a sa place. De par ses origines, de par sa religion, chacun a sa place. Mais je pense que le modèle français doit être construit, doit être consolidé et ne pas se faire de complexe vis-à-vis des modèles qui viennent d'ailleurs. Nous devons juste bien construire le modèle dans lequel nous vivons. Nous sommes un peu un mélange de communautarisme, de république. Et je pense que des réflexions, des études doivent être poussées pour que nous adaptions ce mélange de communautarisme et de république pour que la France ait son identité.
Meredith, if I can turn to you, because I think you come from a country that has a slightly different social political model, so it would be interesting to see what's your perspective on that.
Thank you. And as we were discussing beforehand, you know, the model that you describe as essentially the creation myth in France, I think in many ways, modern Canada's creation myth is founded on diversity and on a positive response to diversity and pluralism. I mean, in many ways, very similar to what you describe in Indonesia. But I think our participants' point is really salient, that there isn't a model that works. There is a million different paths that different societies choose to make this work. And I think that France needs to come to terms with who you are as France and who you are as modern day France and collect those two pieces together. But that's not something that others can do for you. It's something you have to do for yourselves, both the, if we can say, the majority and minorities in the country. But I think it's really important that that happens collectively, that it isn't a continuation of discussions in silos where you have groups saying, but this is how it's always been and we simply can't allow this, and others saying, but we have to have our rights. You need to find a way that you can have that considered conversation together. And there's a lot of individual tools that we work on and others work on that can help give you ideas, but ultimately that path has to be a French path. Which is a bit of a dodge from your question, because
maybe you should
Canada's
develop
path is very
operation in
different.
France. I think there could be
If we're being invited, we'd
interesting
be very
opportunity.
pleased to do so.
We are now left with 4 minutes, so one last question, and then I just warn the speakers, I would like to ask them to conclude. I'm not going to conclude, I will ask them to conclude. And because we're at the Paris Peace Forum, this is also about concrete solutions. I would like to ask them one thing they will recommend us to do to actually fight their fight. I have a question here from the lady. If you can keep it succinct also, because we are just 3.5 minutes before.
Okay, thank you very much. We understand that pluralism is how to build common ground, to respect each other, to understand each other in diversity. However, because I came from Indonesia also, I understand that in the ground level, in the root level, the community live each other peacefully. However, sometimes political leader divided people, and not just in Indonesia, but also in other countries, particularly in big country. My question is how we can encourage the political leader around the world to not using narrative word. I mean the bad word that divided people. Particularly, for example, is what happened to our identity when we use hijab, for example. Sometimes when we come to Europe, United States, is they see us as the terrorists, for example. The image is a very bad image because of media and the political leader using the narrative to blame that one side in other side is not good. That back to my question: how to encourage a political leader to not using bad narrative on promoting pluralism around the world to bring peace? Thank you very much.
Very good question. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the reverse order from where we started and ask each of you to answer this very important question. How do we get leaders not to play the game of division and conquer basically political power by pushing away some groups versus others? So first I turn to you, then Meredith, and then SôNIA. So the answer and one solution.
Very difficult question to answer anyway. But then one thing that I always have a discussion with my colleague is like, when we talk about politics and you are not a politician, then you cannot provide that solution. I mean, for me, to influence them, I mean, you have to be a politician too, in the way that you can also speak in the same language, in the same perspective. That is one thing. Because if you stay as a civil society, then you just can able to influence and expect and hope. But if it is a concrete, then be a politician, make the change yourself. I think this is a very, very core issue that we should move forward. But then if we are a civil society, then we should bring or build the narratives ourselves then to counter those perspectives. It's in this world of in the globalized world, in the digital world, then it is only the narratives that we can produce and counter those things. And then we blast it and use it as our tool to negotiate with the politician and with the political agenda. By then we can make alliance and then we can counter all those things. I think those are my take on those points.
So build narratives against division and hate narratives to basically win the conversation in the public space and hopefully influence public leaders.
Yes.
Meredith?
Right. Thank you. It's a great question. And my immediate answer is vote them out. And they are actually dependent. And I know in a lot of countries, those elections may not be as free and fair as we like. But go to the polls, get them out of power, but also engage their supporters. Because I think one of the things we do too often is basket supporters of a particular president, and I think Brazil, Philippines, other places, as, well, they're beyond the pale, we can't engage them. Convince them of your cause. And we need to be better at how we articulate our cause, because theirs works on Twitter and ours needs to work on Twitter as well. I think in terms of solutions, just to your final point, the thing that I'm really inspired about the programming that we're doing and where I feel like there's a real impact is education, is really engage with the younger generation, not just what is pluralism, but how do you have a pluralistic mindset? How do you understand and engage with diversity positively in your everyday life? And if we begin generationally now, we're able to address this in the longer term as well. Thanks.
SôNIA, you have the final word.
Bom, acho que essa pergunta retrata bem o momento que a gente vive no Brasil, né? Como influenciar esses líderes políticos, né? Eu acho que não a mudar somente a narrativa, mas as suas práticas, né? O governo Bolsonaro hoje, ele tem dois pontos assim que afeta diretamente os povos indígenas. Ele tem apostado muito nessa prática de provocar o confronto entre os próprios povos, né? E aposta nesse divisionismo, Então, ele, ao invés de acabar, ele fortalece ainda mais o divisionismo entre nós, povos, entre a sociedade e nós, povos, e ainda tenta influenciar, né, o seu pensamento de que o meio ambiente não serve para nada, que tem que ser explorado mesmo, porque o que vale é garantir a economia. Né? Então, isso é muito perigoso. Então, o momento que a gente está é muito perigoso. E a outra medida que ele vem adotando é de adotar um modelo único, né? Um padrão único de produção, à base da monocultura, fortalecer o agronegócio com subsídio do governo federal. Sabe? Então, isso faz com que todas as outras iniciativas sejam esquecidas. Então, no Brasil existe sim também milhares de práticas de produção. Né? Os povos indígenas têm seu jeito, os extrativistas têm seu jeito, né? Os quilombolas têm seu jeito. Né? Então, todas as pessoas têm uma forma de viver. Então, acho que para poder acabar com esse divisionismo, é preciso reconhecer, respeitar e valorizar os diversos modos de vida.
Thank you very much. If you can, thank you to the speakers and to the audience.